Good. So let's start again. That's the typical story nowadays when we are using these kind of connections. So warm welcome everybody to this public lecture series, which is first time ever organized fully in internet online. And I have to say that I'm very happy that we are able to organize this, especially during this COVID-19 situation. And we are concentrating on a very topical and interesting issue. We are talking about the future of technology and how that is affecting more or less to the whole world, humans, and to Finland as well. I can already see that there are almost 300 participants, so that's a great number. Thank you very much for participating. My name is Jaana. I work as professor of practice here in Aalto University, and I am the responsible for organizing this public lecture series. And I have to say that I am also very happy that you will hear excellent lectures during this autumn. And we are having 7 lecture days. You can find those days in the lecture series web page. And on each day when we are having a lecture day, we are having 2 lecturers giving their thoughts and insight on this topic, the future of Finland, the future of technology and Finland. But hey, before going to the first lecture, Juho Kaivosoja, could you please provide some practical guidelines, especially to our students who are participating this lecture series as well?
Yeah, anyway, I do have a few points about the lecture series and especially about the course. All lectures will be broadcast and recorded. As mentioned, we are live on Zoom, and we are also rebroadcasting the thing to Panopto. So everything you say and do will be not only visible to everyone but also recorded. And also, please mute your mics for the duration of the lecture, unless you are specifically asked to speak. I can see a few microphone symbols still have color in them in the list, so please do mute yourselves. I did not manage to automatically mute everybody. Yeah, so interactivity will only be provided via Zoom, meaning that you can only ask questions in Zoom, because Panopto will be lagging about a half minute behind, so there's no interactivity that way. Recordings, the Panopto and Panopto recordings will be available afterwards, and we will see if we can make the Zoom recording available as well. It depends on what the quality is. Yeah, and about the course, this is only for Aalto University students, and also, of course, to any visiting students we might have. Please remember to enroll on the course. You still have today to do that, but after today it won't be possible. We will be requiring learning diaries of all lectures, and we will be checking those diaries with Turnitin to make sure that they are unique. You need to watch all lectures. You need to attend at least 6 of them live, and one of them you can watch as a recording. And to check the attendance, we will be using QR codes. The one for this week I will be showing to you in a few moments, so now would be a good time to have your camera phone ready. The exam will also be online for those who want to take it. It's not compulsory, but it will provide you with 2 more credits. It will be based on lectures plus a separate lecture material that will be, or actually already is available on my courses. And also please remember that there's a separate enrollment for that. It's not immediately, it's not, you're not automatically enrolled to the lecture as you would be on many other courses. All right, so here's the QR code you can use to mark yourselves present on the lecture. And if you don't have a suitable smartphone with you, you can also just log in my courses and use the attendance module and the password that is on the screen right now.
And I can see that there are 300 participants, so I would like to emphasize, so in order to everybody to enjoy these lectures, that keep your mics muted and keep your cameras also off, just to make sure that the connection is working properly. And concerning about the questions and comments, please be active. I think when we are having so many participants, which is a great thing, we are using the chat, and you can put your comments and questions to chat, and I will pick them up there and ask those to the lecturers after the lecture. And I can see that there are people from Sörnäinen, from Oulu, and many other places. Thank you for the nice greetings. And one last thing before we are going to the first lecture. Please be free to tweet as well. And we are using in Twitter in this lecture series the hashtag #AaltoDigi. But hey, first lecture, opening this, the future of technology and Finland lecture series. And the first lecture is titled Tech Trends to Watch. So what are the main technological trends that we should look after? And I am very happy that the opening lecture will be given by Managing Director of IBM Finland, Mervi Airaksinen. Good afternoon, Mervi.
Good to see you, good to hear you, and honored to be here. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, we can.
And can
hey,
you also...
floor is yours, Mervi. Very happy to have you here and interested to hear and see what are the technological trends to watch. Please.
Thank you, Jaana. One more thing. You can also see the screen now, because at Juho's part, we couldn't see it, so it's available now for you.
We see it now. We see the screen now. Thank you, Mervi.
Very good, very good. But hey, guys, so thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's great. Yeah, great to be here. And as already Jaana introduced myself, so my name is Mervi Airaksinen. I'm the Managing Director for the IBM Finland. And today we will cover the topic of tech trends to watch. I will be approaching this topic from IBM research and lab point of view. And we will be focusing especially on the artificial intelligence, blockchain and quantum computing. Those are the hot topics that we have currently on the table and our laboratories. But before we enter that section, I first want to a little bit talk you through about IBM. I think that the brand of the IBM is familiar to so many of you, but I still want to spend 5 minutes just to walk you through what this company is all about nowadays. And this is also giving you the perspective why we consider these certain technologies are so important and why we are kind of a relevant player in this market to define and find the new future technologies to watch. But nevertheless, this company was founded in 1911, so it's a 109 years old. I consider it's quite an achievement already in the tech industry, because we know that the technology keep on transforming all the time. So it's a challenge also to keep on innovating yourself and transforming yourself decade after decade. But this company has been successfully doing that already over a century. So hats off, I need to say. The company is nowadays $80 billion revenue company yearly, 350,000 people around the globe working for the company. And nowadays it had transformed itself to be a software, hardware and services selling company. I think I want to also touch base a little bit what IBM is doing and what it's all about. And I need to say that the research and innovation has been the heart of the company for I think for all the time of the company. And that's why it has been able to be successful in so many years in the market. But I think many of you may know, some maybe don't know, but in your everyday life, you are having interaction with IBM in several ways. For example, in the financial sector, when you do any transactions, 97% of all the transactions are run on the IBM systems. So it's very likely that you will touch base with IBM technology in that sense. And this is about the largest banks in the world. I think also as part of our innovation and research activities, we have come up with the innovations like ATM, like the magnetic stripe card. So a lot of activities behind the financial sector. I also want to highlight here the other industry being aviation. Nowadays, 80% of all the aviation online tickets transactions are run on our services. It's back in there. I know in the COVID times that has not been that popular industry, but nevertheless, we have a very long history also on the aviation side. And for example, all the US space traveling and space exploration journeys, IBM has been always part of those, especially the Apollo 11 when man landed to the moon was a big moment also for IBM. Nevertheless, the innovation being part of everyday life in different industry is in the heart of this company. And we officially formulated a research institution inside IBM at 1945. So it's 75-year-old research lab. It's located, the key or the headquarters of our research is located in New York, but nowadays we have a presence in 6 continents with 19 locations, closest for us being Zurich in Europe. And we have 3,000 researchers, and we have actually 6 out of those have been receiving a Nobel Prize. So it's really a serious business to be innovating on the technology industry. I think the innovations that have come out from the lab is, for example, the UPC barcode. You can see here floppy disks at the times when those were so popular, SQL programming, DRAM. So a lot of innovations coming out of those laboratories. And I think last year, the IBM filed nearly 9,300 patents. So also making patents is a very important part of our being. And with that amount of patents, we were on the 27th year in a row, the US patent leader. So just to give you the idea that I just want to emphasize, we take this research, innovation, looking at the future very seriously. For over a century, there has been successes in this area, and that's why we want to now share with you guys a little bit about the technologies that we are currently looking in our laboratories. I think the essence is that we are now in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, and this is the digital revolution. The essence is that the pace of the change is exponential. It's not anymore linear. It's very difficult to see that the world keep on being faster every day. It's much faster moving than it has ever been. And this is mainly due to exponential technologies. And when I talk about exponential technologies, I refer to technologies like 5G, edge computing, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, quantum computing. So these are the technologies that will and are enabling the very rapid change and the digitalization of our society. And the extent and the pace of the technological change, it's already having a wide-ranging impact across nearly all industries. I find this lecture series to be very important for all of us, because I see that every company is nowadays a technology company. So you cannot anymore avoid the understanding the technology. You should not treat technology as some kind of weird, maybe a little bit monster, a scary thing. You really need to make it to your friend, nurture it, understand it, because this is the only way how we can stay competitive in the market as an individual, as Finland, as a country, as a society. So it's very important we keep on having this technological discussion about what trends to watch, because these trends
first go to the
society and our careers in such a short term already. So it's important we can see to the future, understand what do they enable actually, so that we can build our career paths, our skill sets, our businesses to match the future that the technology will enable to us. And that's why I consider it's very important to spend some time on these key technologies. We will today take a look at, I already mentioned to you guys, so 3 different areas. Let's look at the artificial intelligence, let's look at the blockchain, and let's look at the quantum computing. Those are the hot topics that our research and innovation labs are having on their tables. There are a bunch of other interesting technologies, but for us, these are especially the ones that we are focusing. Let's start with the AI. In order to utilize the AI, you need a bunch of data. And actually, the amount of data being created already today exceeds our current capabilities to handle it. To be honest, 90% of all the data available is not utilized. So we are already overwhelmed with the data. And the fact is that with the exponential technologies like 5G, like edge computing, everything will be soon connected and the amount of data will continue to explode. So if, for example, if we look at the 5G, what does it enable together with the edge computing? It enables that in the edge, there can be small software that can run actually and manage the data, do very short and fast decisions. With 5G, even the devices can communicate with each other with very low or no latency. And this is enabling, for example, autonomous traffic. So cars can actually communicate with each other. The amount of data will continue to increase. We already see today together with IBM, Wärtsilä, and other companies, we are building the autonomous ships. So we are trying to change the marine traffic. And these are already available utilizing these technologies. And when all the devices will be connected, the amount of data will just continue to explode. And there is a huge need for utilization of the artificial intelligence to mine this data, utilize it, and make us better, make us optimize our way to work, make us able to simulate how we can, for example, do better decisions to save the planet, use the resources. So it's very important to understand everything will be connected and the data amounts will continue to explode. I think the key issue here is not actually the data, there will be the data, but the challenge is rather how do we model the data in a manner that we can utilize that with the artificial intelligence. And we have this saying that there is no AI without EA. So there is no artificial intelligence without the information architecture. And that is actually the bottleneck in order to utilize all of the data that we have nowadays available. But let's look at then, when we have all the data, it could make us much more wiser if we learn with the artificial intelligence, we find the ways how to utilize it. So one thing before we jump into that one is basically our approach is we consider the cloud technologies, the hybrid cloud, the edge cloud, that will be the platform for all of the data. The data is the fuel for everything. And then the AI is the one that can actually unlock the predictive data and actually utilize it into our everyday use. And now if we look at the evolution of the artificial intelligence, there are three phases how we put it. First of all, we have been in a narrow AI usage period. It means basically that the AI can manage single tasks from single domains. It's like a superhuman. It can do things that human can, but with much more accurate and with much more higher speed. Basically, this means that you can detect the cancer, you can find the cancer from the skin. AI can absolutely support you to do that much more efficiently than the humans can. But it's very narrow and focused on a single domains. On the other end, we see long in the future, we see the general AI. So there we can see that this is the cross-domain learning. This kind of AI is having already the common sense, and it's a broadly kind of automated function on its own. But we are far from there yet. We run out of the power in the earth in order to, with the current methods, to build that kind of AI capabilities. So we see that is the future. Where we are now is the broad AI period. So basically this means that we are doing this multitask, multi-domain AI. And it means that it can find information from different sources and it can execute based on the information. And it's also highlighted heavily that the AI has to be explainable, which means that everybody can understand based on what rules, values, the AI is making decisions. So that is very important at nowadays. And if we look at the trends at the moment with the AI, we are looking three different topics. We are looking mastering the language. We are looking at learn with less. And then we are trying to build the common sense. And let's look at those a little bit one by one. Okay, so mastering the language, it means that we are now putting huge effort to make sure that the AI can learn different languages and also the dialects. So example from Finland, at IBM we have been last spring annotating a lot of sentences trying to teach our Watson to learn a Turku dialect. It's very funny. It's sometimes also difficult for me. We are annotating sentences, getting from social media, public available sites from the city of Turku. And then we annotate. So basically we say if the sentence is positive, negative, or neutral. And we are teaching the AI 60,000 sentences and trying to put support the AI to mastering the language. So this is something that is currently very popular and we are working on it. The second thing is also that we try to, I will share with you another example about mastering the language. It's also on the COVID times on the spring. So we did with the city of Espoo, we considered that there is a challenge to reach all of the citizens who are talking different languages with their COVID questions. So City of Espoo, together with a partner called Neuvo, implemented this kind of smart bot who can answer the questions from the citizens in 100 different languages. So not only the Sweden, English, and Finnish that are the usual customer service languages, but also 97 others. The smartbot was answering 24/7 and answering 100,000 inquiries or questions per day. So it was very efficient way to support the customer service, to provide wide service to all the Espoo citizens in the COVID times. But this is also one example of this multitask, multi-domain AI, and it was getting the information from the trusted authority sites like DHL. So basically the AI was also learning all the time. So that is the second trend. We should automate the learning with the AI and make sure that in the certain areas, the artificial intelligence can by itself start to learn better and better and understand things more and more. Then we move to the common sense part. And before going there, that is the third trend on the current broad AI. I would like to share with you a little bit further because there is a new emerging technique that we are looking into in order to improve our ways to teach the artificial intelligence and build a little bit about the common sense, because that is absolutely needed. Basically, currently when we are utilizing the neural networks, they understand the data and can learn from it, but they are not able to relate different objects to each other. So they are kind of missing the common sense. If you ask from Siri a simple question, it can easily answer. But if you ask if I can put my coffee cup to the table, will it stay there, whatever, the common sense is missing from that simple AI. So that's why we are coming up with the new technique. So it's called neurosymbolic, and we are combining neural networks together with the symbolic reasoning. And here also, I think the important thing is also to understand that with this, we're trying to build a little bit the common sense to the AI. And this way, we could use much less training data in order to support the AI to learn new things. So less training, less manual annotation when the AI would understand a little bit about the common sense of things, how things are relating to each other. Because the fact is that there's, the teaching of the current AI, it's taking a lot of data and a lot of energy. And if we continue to keep our current computing rate here in the world, in 2040, we will exceed the power budget of the Earth, and we can never reach the general AI. That was the third section where the AI is more autonomous and having the common sense. We cannot go there with the current techniques. So that's why we need to continuously innovate how we can be better and more efficient in order to build the AI to the next level. Because absolutely we need the AI to manage all the data and the insights in it. And this brings me to the point, how does it look in the real life then? We have been building this common sense to the AI, and we have this project called Debater. So this is already artificial intelligence. It can observe different kind of data sources. It can actually produce a speech with structure and with purpose and with the meaning. And this first appearance of this IBM Debater was in February 2019, and it was competing or debating against another human debate champion. And in the end, please go to YouTube and see that debate. It's very funny to see. In the end, the audience then voted which did better in that speech. And basically the audience said that, okay, the human was still better on delivering the speech, but the facts and how the debater is giving the speech, it was much more insightful. So it's very interesting direction where the artificial intelligence is going with this one. And I need to say that, hey, please, there is also at IBM website, there is always ongoing debate with the machine. So if you wish to add there, I think it's about economy, wealthiness. It's the current debate, still open for a few days. So please just join the debate with the machine and you can take it from there. And also last weekend at the US Open, we could see the machine was debating about who is the best tennis player on earth. So we are moving into this direction where the artificial intelligence is having a broader task, building a little bit of common sense, and is able to debate in conversations. And I think when we talk about the AI, we always need to talk about the ethics, because it's still the people who are talking and teaching the artificial intelligence. So I feel mandatory to say it like this. So there has to be, these are the 5 rules that we need to always follow. And we are very careful with at IBM, how do we do these things? So accountability. So it's important to know that the designers and developers, they are responsible for the decisions and the outcomes of the AI. There has to be values aligned with the user groups. And then, as mentioned earlier, it has to be explainable. So humans must easily be able to understand why the artificial intelligence is doing the decisions like they are doing. So for example, in the bank, maybe regulator can ask that why you give this a loan for this person. And then you need to be able to explain how you have automated the process, and these are the principles how you give the decision. So important. It has to be fair. We should not discriminate any of the user groups or people groups, and then we need to be mindful about the user data rights, protect the user data. And the essence here is for the society. It's clear artificial intelligence will take away some of the kind of will automate some of the tasks in the society. At the same time, there will be a lot of new cool jobs created in the more creative areas. But nevertheless, this change is very rapid. So it will not like take years and years. It will happen soon, and it's moving already into this direction. I see COVID also speeding up the automation and the digitalization needs in the society. So we see already investments in this area. So it's the essence that we do understand how the artificial intelligence is impacting the jobs, and what kind of skills we need to have in order to be also valuable and be able to contribute in the future. And here is a good thing for you guys. So I think as a call to action, if you have not yet been playing with the artificial intelligence, you can start it for free. Just log into IBM Cloud. You find different kind of button elements there, and you can start to build your skills and start to automate or start to work with the language programs and so on. So please just visit the IBM Cloud, and then you can take it from there. Okay. Next thing, we will jump to the blockchain. I think the blockchain, it's also fairly young technology. It was founded in 2008 with the anonymous user group. It was founded for that unknown and known parties could make a digital exchange, a transaction in the trusted environment, especially around the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. That was the origin of the blockchain. The idea in a blockchain is that known and unknown parties can create in a digital trusted environment, they can do transactions with each other. They can take away these kind of middlemen and brokers outside from the supply chain, and they can do very efficiently transactions there. And that is, blockchain is a lot about building the efficiencies, trust, and digitalize different kind of supply chains. On blockchain, there are 2 different kind of blockchains. They can be private and they can be public. If you look at the public private blockchains, they are rather in such a manner that the identities who are doing the transactions, they are not visible, but all the transactions are visible to everyone. This is on the Bitcoin world. Then there are private blockchains, which means that the participants who are doing the transactions, they know each other. But the transactions that they are making, they are not visible to everyone. So these are the 2 different types. We as IBM, we are working on a private blockchain part. And we are working and bringing our tools, software development kits, on top of technology called Hyperledger Fabric. So it's an open source project. Approximately 300 companies are contributing. No one is owning it. No one is governing it. So it's a true open source project. And we built on top of that our capabilities. If we look at the problem that the blockchain is, I will also put it in with this kind of picture, that what kind of problem the blockchain is tackling. We all know this picture. So when you want to get a loan, you want to buy a house, you need to do these round of things everywhere. So you need to get the permissions, you need to book the visits in the banks, in the insurers, in the regulators. It's very inefficient process how we do it today. It's inefficient because you have a duplicates of all of the records in all of the different instances. It's also very expensive because you have to duplicate in all of the records in all of these instances. You also need to meet usually people face to face. You cannot utilize digital identity. So it's really time consuming also in that sense. And in a way it's vulnerable because there is one key instance, it's the bank. And if something happens there, it's a fraud, it's a cyber attack, the whole system is very fragile under that one. And the blockchain will cut out the complexity out of this, this kind of transactions. So basically, what does it mean? Blockchain means that there is a shared ledger. So it's a basically shared transaction. Everybody is agreeing on it in own end. When everybody has agreed it, then it's done, it's create the block, and then you cannot anymore revert it. So then it's the truth. It's very important that there is the consensus, provenance, and finality in that one. Consensus means that everybody is agreeing that, okay, we agree that this is the document, this is how the way, for example, I will sell my house, so this is the way it goes. Everybody is agreeing digitally on this one. We don't need to go into meeting face to face, no papers, it's a digital. We all agree this is how it's gonna do. Then the provenance, it means basically that all of us knows that I have been owning the house and I'm selling the house to another party, and we all agree, yes, the ownership will now change like this. And finality means that once it's done, you cannot anymore reverse it. So then the block is created, and then if you want to reverse it, you need, with all of these parties involved, create a new block to reverse that decision. But otherwise, it's just everything happening digitally. It's beautiful, it's fast, and it cut down through the complexity of the current supply chains that we are having. And I think it's valuable to look at some examples that we have been doing. I like the examples of the containers. It's currently 16 trillion of businesses is run in the seas, so it will be shipped over the seas. And 80% of all the consumer goods are traveling through the sea containers. And still these sea containers, they spend usually more time on the harbor than at the sea. So there is a huge issue in this industry because it's very fragmented, it's slow, there are a lot of manual paperwork. You don't know where the container is going. So there are a lot of things that this industry need to improve. And Maersk, together with us and with the trade lanes, and together with other players on the container business, created or took advantage of the blockchain platform. Nowadays, 5 out of the 6 biggest container companies at the seas are utilizing the blockchain. They have been, with the blockchain, they are able to get rid of all the paperwork. So basically, everything is happening digitally. When you arrive to the harbor, everybody can see that you are there. You can immediately get everything checked out. So all the other parties can also see and have the transparency that what is happening, when is happening, where are my goods, You don't need any more papers and manage those manually. So you get rid of very expensive manual paper processing. And you also build the trust and the visibility on the supply chain. And that is the beauty out of this. And also this Mars considers that this platform is also providing them a platform to build also some future services on top of it. But the essence is here to improve the competitiveness of the container business overall. And usually blockchain is business as such, it requires that the whole ecosystem will start to use it. It doesn't really help if for the users of the containers, that if only one company can accept the digital transaction through the blockchain. It's important that the whole industry, everybody will take advantage of the blockchain solution, start to utilize it. So then it's easier for many of the companies who are utilizing these container services to transform themselves into the digital mode. And the second example I want to share with you is an example from Norway. And it's about the food industry, because I think we are also having two kind of issues on the food industry. First of all, 45% of all the vegetables and fruits are going to the waste because they are not used. So basically it's saying, in a sustainable thinking, we are using a lot of time, effort, fertilizers, power, water to grow these fruits and vegetables, which will go to the waste. We should not do. So we should improve the visibility to the supply chain to ensure that we produce enough amount and the right amount of goods, products, vegetables, whatever, so that we don't need to put them into the waste. The sustainability value is increasing all the time, and that's why it's very important. Also, at the same time, 80% of the consumers, they are willing to pay more of the goods if they know where the origin is from. So basically, consumers are asking for the transparency of whatever they buy. And blockchain is tool to create the transparency. So basically what we did in Norway for the Norwegian salmons, they felt that they were sometimes, they were facing some frauds, and someone was utilizing in a wrongly manner their reputation. So they wanted to build the transparency and make sure that everybody who is buying the salmon from Quarry Arctic knows actually that it's absolutely from there. So they implemented blockchain solution. Basically, what does it mean? The consumer goes to the store, they take the picture of the QR code. The QR code is telling to the consumer, hey, this is from Quarry Arctic from Norway. This is this old, this is the supply chain, these are the certificates that Quarry Arctic is having, these are the audits that were done in this and this time. So basically, you can put as much information into through the blockchain to visible to your end user as you wish. And this way, Quarry was able to cut the supply chain and tell their story directly and make it available for their end customers. So it's also very important to build the transparency into the systems. Also different kind of wine producers, they can put the grapes, they can put the cellar temperatures and so on. Whatever you imagine to do it. But this is the way how you can build the transparency. And coming to the point again, also on the blockchain. So if you haven't got started, you wish to get started, you want to digitalize some industry, you see that absolutely you want to take everyone and make sure that everyone in that industry can get paperless, do all the transactions on a digital manner, build the transparency. Please log into our cloud and you can take the picture of the QR code. And then you have the tools there and the trainings available to get started. And then last but not least, here is the third topic. So quantum computing. I wanted to show you the picture of the quantum computers here on the right-hand side. You can see it's a small chips there, and there are a lot of layers around the quantum chips. But nevertheless, I especially wanted to show you these white how can I say it, products around the chips, because these are made in Finland, in Pitäjänmäki. So Blue Force is the company who is doing this, and it's great to have Finnish skills and technology around the future of the quantum computing. Inside that white device, the temperature is close to the absolute zero, so minus 273. So it's a one of a kind setup. But basically, for almost 40 years, the scientists have been working with the quantum physics and quantum computing. And 3 years ago, we brought to the market the first quantum computers to get everybody to get started. We are in the early phase, but to get started with quantum computers. And because quantum computers in that sense are quite new, I will show you here a little bit the theory about it. Nevertheless, because we are very much used to work with the bits, but the future of the computing will look like completely different. So on the bits, we combine mathematics and information. We have ones and zeros, and our laptops, phones are utilizing those technologies. Nevertheless, we have been moving to the artificial intelligence, combining information and biology. We come to the neurons. And now when we move to also to the era where we combine physics and the information, we move to the qubits era. So it's a quantum bits, qubits. And the future of the computing will be utilizing all of these different capabilities. And I need to say that I'm very excited of this development. I will shortly show you it will exponentially enable us to do far better and more calculation simulations. And I do believe that the future on the technology will be very much science-driven innovation that will be defining the future for us. And that's why it's very important for our country to put a huge focus on building these capabilities and be able to be a forerunner on the science and with the innovations with the new technologies. Nevertheless, little bit about the exponential growth explained in a proper manner. So, or very simply put, classical bit can be 1 or 0, simple as that. Quantum bit can be 1 or 0 or both in superposition or equally. So it's a huge amount of further opportunities that the quantum is enabling to us. And the quantum computer can execute simultaneously 2 to 64 calculations, 2 to 64. And as a comparison point, the figure is so big there that I cannot even pronounce it, but 2 to 64 calculations at the same time. And if you compare to the best supercomputer, Summit, that is currently in place, utilizing bits, it can process 200,000 requests per second. 200,000 compared to 2 to 64. It's completely different. It's the exponential growth means exactly that. We do expect that the quantum technology, it will not come into our laptops or phones, but we do see that you can implement it, for example, to your data center. And that is the beauty of it also, that the quantum computer, either it has a 20 or 2000 qubits, it consumes 20 kilowatts power. If we compare it to the current supercomputers, it consumes 2000 megawatts of power. So it's 1,000 times more consuming, and the calculation efficiencies are so much less. So it's very important that we continue accelerating the development of the quantum, because it's so power efficient way to do exponential growth on different kind of calculations. We do believe that it will take still 5 to 10 years to build kind of error-free quantum computer. Okay, but let's jump to the points where we are seeing the opportunities currently with the quantum computing. So basically, we are looking at the 4 different areas. We are looking at the financial services, chemistry, production and transportation, and then also the AI and the machine learning. So when I look at the discussions that we are having with partners, for example, we can start with the financial services together with the JP Morgan. We have identified that the areas where we want to use quantum computing is rather to build, be able to do better risk scenarios. So it's just trying to build further accuracy on how do they calculate the risks. It's kind of a natural way to utilize the huge computing power. On the chemistry industry, we are working with ExxonMobil. They have two ideas how they want to use it. They wanna find more molecules who are able to do better carbon capture. So it's a sustainability thing. They wanna continue finding science-driven better molecules that are supporting the well-being of the Earth. They are also utilizing this in order to build the power grid system into the countries so that it could be more sustainable, utilizing renewable energy. So it's also one way to simulate different kind of ways to build the power grid for the future. Then we can jump to the transportation and production industry. So there we are cooperating with Daimler, for example. They first want to fix their supply chain, so they really want to optimize how to build the better supply chain, the spare parts, the logistics. So I consider that is more from a profitability point of view. But and at the same time, they also see that this edge computing 5G will enable the autonomous cars. And this will bring to the cities a new kind of landscape for traffics. So it will be mobility as a service. Daimler wants to understand how they would need to simulate how they should build their capabilities in the cities in order to be able to offer the mobility as a service. So they use it for the simulation of the future cities. And then, of course, last but not least, we are utilizing quantum computing in order to improve the AI and the machine learning skills. As mentioned, with current technologies and with the rate of computing, we run the power of Earth in 2040 if we don't come up with the new technologies. The new technologies is like quantum computing. With this technology, it's much more energy efficient. And then we can continue teaching the AI with the new skills and move to that general AI section where it's having the broader autonomy and the common sense. But as said, it's still rather new. And putting this into the perspective, so basically we want to go to the quantum advantage mode. Ever since the beginning of the century, the quantum science has been here. We consider we are now in the era where we are quantum ready, so we can do research, we can explore. And 3 years ago, we launched our quantum computers. And then, let's say, decade from here, we try to move to the quantum advantage mode. There we need all of your support because we want to commercialize the quantum. And the second thing, we also want to be able to find solutions to the world's largest problems like people starving or the sustainability of the planet. So we do see that this, or any health issues. So we do expect and to see that quantum is the tool to be able to solve those and simulate the solutions. So also here I have a good news for you guys. So if you want to get started and do the first application on the quantum computer, feel free, log into our cloud and start doing it. We absolutely need people in Finland to understand how this quantum will be developed, because it's completely different setup and mindset than you are doing with the bits. So that is the essence. Just log in and start seeing how it's working. We are offering to everyone's use our computer, so you can get the services from the cloud. You can utilize the simulators, or you can utilize our quantum computers in order to run your applications. Already today, we have had 30 million experiments run through our computers. And we have also seen, because we are offering this platform to students, to third parties, to researchers, so there has been over 200 white papers wrote by the third parties wrote about the quantum tools and the possibilities that this platform is offering. So please log in and start to make your quantum journey. And then we also have this quantum network. I need to say all the universities also part of it. It's great to have you guys there. We have 120 companies around the world, so we never can innovate these things alone. So it's always an ecosystem play. We have companies, universities, and different kind of organizations, governments supporting us, and together, and we are supporting them, they are supporting us, and together we try to innovate and move this technology to more mature state so that we can, yes, make it commercial, and yes, solve the biggest problems in the world with the quantum technology. But summarizing the presentation. So here were the 3 key technologies that we are currently exploring in our labs. And as you could see, they are already available. So that is the beautiful thing. They are available. So you can immediately today, after these beautiful lectures, you can just log in, decide your future technology, and start do and learn your skills in that area. I think 2 messages to the Finland is on top of this is that it's the essence that we nurture the discussion here in Finland about the future skills. As a smaller country here, we are technology forerunner, but the exponential growth and the pace of the change is huge. And we should have, and we have started already yesterday in this journey, but we need to make sure that the schools are building these skills into this society. So that is very important. The second important thing is that we also need to nurture the entrepreneurship, because this will bring up great ideas, new businesses, and absolutely we need to make sure that the entrepreneurs can grow their business. They have monies available, support available to take it from the seed to the huge growth and be a global big companies with these technologies, so that we don't always sell the golden ideas away from Finland, but support our enterprises to grow and smaller companies. But basically, that's that. I'm very excited of the technologies. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and please log into our cloud and start building your skills.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mervi. And I have to say that we can feel and hear that how enthusiasm you have on technology. So you are working in a dream job of yourself. So that's great issue. And I have to say that this was an excellent start for this whole lecture series. And if you have time, there are quite many questions in the chat for you at the moment. But before going to the next lecture, first, thank you a lot, Mervi. And I would like to raise actually 2 questions here. First of all, in IBM, is there any position for communications engineering students? What are you saying?
Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes, I put my answer or like this. So we continuously have open positions for great people. We have extensive trainee programs, graduate programs, and also permanent positions. So when you are enthusiastic on any of the topics of building the future with the technology, let's keep in touch.
Very good. And in short, the second question from Elina Hiltunen, I think this is interesting because this has been discussed more and more all the time. When we are talking about the future of the technology, we are also talking about the DNA computing. So how do you see the future of combining biology and computing?
I think already with the artificial intelligence, we are tackling these questions that how far we can take, how autonomous, how common sense AI we can actually build. So I see in all of these technologies, there are great opportunities and there are great things that we can explore in the future. But at the same time, I also call for a very value-driven discussion, how far we are willing to go on all of these technologies. I have absolutely no clear answer, but I just call out for a good and open debate and discussion on these crucial topics.
Great. Hey, once again, thank you very much, Mervi, for your excellent opening lecture in this lecture series. And like said, if you have time, take a look at those questions in the chat. So thank you, Mervi, and let's go forward to the second lecture of tonight. Jaana Tapanainen-Thiess. Do you hear me, Jaana?
Perfect. Yes, I was first unable to unmute myself, so it didn't allow me to start to talk. But now I think you can all hear me. Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you for the invitation.
No, it's our pleasure, and I can see that there are approximately 300 listeners online at the moment, waiting for hear your lecture, which is titled Finland for Future Generation. So is that something what you are on daily basis thinking about in your job?
Yes, that is something we are working every day hands-on, thinking about the Finland for future generations, and I will be very much focusing my presentation also on how do we actually in government create a picture of the future, and how do we create a hypothesis how the Finland for next generations will look like.
Excellent. Hey, please, Jaana, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So, Finland for next generations. I am the Secretary General for the Government Report on the Future and the Government Foresight Group at the Prime Minister's Office in the Finnish government. Yes, I'd like to welcome you to the future. I'd like to take you on a short journey as how we can create views on the future, how we can navigate into the future, and how does futures work and strategic foresight look like in a government context. 15 years ago, a story was made about futures work in the client magazine of the organization I was working for. At the photo shoot for the cover of the magazine, the photographer asked me to picture a ball in front of me, and he asked me to put my hands like this in the picture. And I said to him, I hope he's not going to create a cover where I'm looking at a crystal ball. And he assured me it would not be a crystal ball, but the globe. When I got the magazine from the print, it was a crystal ball. But what is futures work and strategic foresight if it's not looking at the crystal ball? What I can assure you is uncertainty is lying ahead. There has been a lot of discussion lately of uncertainty and how to deal with uncertainty, how to make decisions in times of uncertainty. The coronavirus has brought uncertainty into our near future. Usually in futures work, we look quite a bit ahead. Last year, I returned back to Finland from the United Arab Emirates, where I worked as an advisor in their Prime Minister's office in the Future Department. The first piece of work was to look into 2071, when United Arab Emirates will celebrate its centennial. This year, I have done scenarios looking 3 years ahead, so the time span can be very wide. So where do we start? We start by asking ourselves, are we asking the right questions? Albert Einstein has said, if I have an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. But the challenge is that we do not really have time for the essential things. Or I'd like to ask, do we have time for the essential things? Pressing issues dominate too much of our decision makers' time, and too often decisions are made without ever really stopping to understand on what assumptions of future development our decisions are based. What are our assumptions on the future? And I have worked with boards of directors, and sometimes I've done a simple exercise to showcase what it means. I put example 5 statements about the future placed on the floor and asked the board members to stand by the future statement they believe will happen. And this is usually enough, as discussions will immediately follow as how someone can stand somewhere else by some other statement that they actually themselves believe in. And it's easier to direct then the discussions into our assumptions about the future. But the challenge is of course, as Airaksinen has said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Our views are based on our perceptions. Here in the first picture, you can see a picture where the person carrying the ladder is perceivingly seeing the situation rather dramatic. And his reading is that the person is needing of help. If you look at the same picture, the same situation from another angle, you can see that actually it looks very different and there is no need for help. But what are our processes and platforms for our decision makers to share their views and their perceptions with each other? We need a map to navigate, but do we have an updated map? One of the most known cartographic mistakes in history was the island of California, and the mistake was copied into new maps, although new information and evidence came from explorers. And we need to ask ourselves also, what are the sources of information we use? What is the data that we use for decision making? And how do we update our understanding of the situation on an ongoing basis? And how do we recognize an outdated map? Donald Rumsfeld has talked a lot about things that we know. There are things that there are the known knowns, there are the things that we know that we know. There are the known unknowns, that is to say, there are the things that we know that we don't know. But there are also the unknown unknowns, there are things that we do not know, we don't know. Strategic foresight gives us a framework for knowing. Here is the sort of the same things that Donald Rumsfeld said, put in a different setup. So the known knowns are the megatrends, the trends. These are really the sort of the low-hanging fruits we should all be knowledgeable about. The known unknowns, we move into the world of uncertainty, and that's the material we start to work on to build scenarios. Unknown knowns is a kind of a hypothesis that if we knew what we know, so how to create continuous foresight processes in organizations so that we can tap into the knowledge that is within the organization, but also to make our decision making better because it's not project based. And then when we have done the megatrend trends work, we have started to do scenarios. We have established continuous processes. That's where, I'm sorry, there is a small mistake, wildcards. So that's the state where it's better for us to start to move into starting to think about disruptions, wildcards, because we have a better understanding and a better context within which we can then look at these. John Naisbitt has said trends like horses are easier to ride in the direction they are already going, and I'd go by that. And Arje de Geus, who is a former head of strategic planning at Shell, has said scenarios can help us to think the unthinkable, anticipate the unknown, and utilize both to make better strategic decisions. Scenarios are powerful planning tools because the future is uncertain, and they require decision makers to question assumptions on how the world works. Using scenarios is like rehearsing for the future. And by recognizing the warning signs, we can avoid surprises, adapt, and act effectively. Decisions that have been pre-tested against alternative futures are more likely to stand the test of time and produce robust and resilient strategies. The result of scenario planning is not a more accurate picture of the future, but better thinking and an ongoing strategic conversation about the future. What we do is we try to look at the whole of environment. We look at 360 degrees. We look at societal factors, the technological factors, the economical factors, ecological, political factors, and then come from the global environment closer into decision-making processes. And like I said, usually, the focus of futures, people who do futures work and are practitioners in foresight, the time span can vary. So I've been involved, like I said, in something looking over 50 years ahead, but I've also been involved when the uncertainty, like in this Corona time, came very close into something that is just a couple of years ahead. But what we need to be really aware of are the filters. And these are the filters that the information has to pass to have an impact: the surveillance observation filter, the cognitive and mental filter, and then the power filters. And the filters define the field of observation. The cognitive mental filters, they are in the sense-making process based on prior experiences. And when information does not support the current mental models, it can be hindered. And then the last one is the power filter that can be observed, for example, in some hierarchical settings. So what are the challenges of foresight? I've already now in this point, I will give some reflections about my sort of personal views on the challenges even on doing foresight work. And one is there a budget and resources, or is this another worthy cause? And this is something that I think we very often find that foresight is seen as very important, but too often we lack resources, we lack budgets. We have to be very careful about outsourcing strategic thinking, as that is a very risky business. But very often we see when we look at foresight work done, it's too often outsourced to outsiders. And this really forces organizations to start to think doing foresight work rather differently. Of course, we need outside experts, but we also need to responsibly do foresight ourselves. Foresight should be free from red tape. And we really need to start building organizational capacity and capability to actively think about the future. And that's way better than trying to find a guru who kind of knows the future. We need to institutionalize foresight. We need to put strategic foresight where decisions about the future are made. We need to move away from foresight projects to establishing continuous foresight processes. And it's very important to engage top decision makers in scenario processes or any futures work, but especially on critical uncertainties, and start to harness a dialogue on our assumptions on which our strategies are built. And we should not just look at continuities, but also at the unknown, the discontinuities, the prices and disruptions. Now I'll move a little bit to the work done in the Finnish government on foresight. I work at the strategy department of the Prime Minister's office, and it coordinates and develops joint foresight work of the government and the ministries. Our goal is for strategic foresight to support decision-making in government and to strengthen cross-governmental foresight work. The focus of the strategy department of the Prime Minister's office is to establish continuous strategic foresight processes in government and to link futures work and strategic foresight better to decision-making processes. And we also try to identify new topics for research. In accordance with the government program, the government's strategic decision-making must also be supported even more strongly with foresight. And it brings future challenges and opportunities to be discussed, explored, and decided together. We prepare the government's report on the future and the ministry's future reviews once in the government period. These are sort of the three main areas we do foresight in. So government foresight, which is more bound to the government period, trying to create a better situational awareness and analysis, and do thematic foresight and futures work for different parties. I mean, different sort of ministerial groups or just what arises in the normal day-to-day business. And then continuous foresight processes. This is something what we are trying to establish. So to move away from projects and to establish these continuous foresight processes. There is the ministerial future review process, which is done once in a government term to move it towards continuous horizon scanning and monitoring. And we have also found that this common foresight, we also need common tools. So we have had some experimentation with different tools that could support us in this work. And very famous, the Futures Dialogue with the Parliament. Finland has had almost 30 years an ongoing Futures Dialogue with the Parliament. The government report on the future was first handed to the Parliament, I think, in 1993. And this is something that is a wonderful, wonderfully showcases this very open, transparent process of trying to establish a continuous futures dialogue between different entities. What we need to improve is the futures work in different parliamentary committees. We are mostly working with the Committee of the Future. Integrating foresight into decision-making processes in ministries. We have done a lot of work already in the past to increase, and the ministries they start to have almost all established foresight teams. What we are trying cross-governmentally is to create a shared understanding of the future development. What are the factors affecting the future of Finland? What are the drivers of change? Are we strategically prepared for possible disruptions? We try to increase the strategic dialogue across the government to better understand what assumptions of future development is our strategies and programs based on. What are our strategic options? To do wind tunneling and stress testing of these options and to identify imperative actions and contingency plans. And then the common framework and language, just like how do we think about the future of futures? How do we deal with complexity? And how to increase systems understanding. With the continuous and cross-governmental foresight work, we can create a better framework for monitoring the environment. And this is something we are trying to establish, this continuous monitoring of the environment. This enables us to connect singular events in the environment to a broader context and to develop and direct measures and actions, even ever-changing environment. And to improve our responsiveness and readiness for change, for future changes in the environment. The ministerial future reviews assess global trends and the development of the Finnish society and examine issues involving political decision-making. The aim is there to create public debate and provide information for the forthcoming elections and for the next government formation. The government report on the future, it is done once during each electoral period. It's a report on long-term future prospects and government's targets. The Parliamentary Committee for the Future prepares the Parliament's response. And the purpose is also to raise public discussions about the kind of future we want for Finland. I'll be saying a little bit later on a wonderful process we have started with the Time Out Foundation on creating future dialogues about the future of Finland. A little bit about the Parliamentary Committee for the Future. It's one of the Parliament's standing committees. Its members are all members of Parliament and represent different political parties. It prepares Parliament's response to the Government Foresight report, and it issues statements to other committees on matters related to the future. And discusses future development factors and models, and it serves as a parliamentary body responsible for assessing technological development. They have a very wonderful report, Technology Reviews, and I'd really recommend to have a look at those because they are really worldwide recognized reports. The Ministry of Future Reviews and the government report, the government is required to strengthen the cross-governmental foresight and futures work. The Parliamentary Committee of the Future stated in their last response to the government report on the future that they will require us to prepare the government report on the future we're working on now based on the ministerial foresight work. And then also the future reviews that have been developed per ministry, we will change this so that we will prepare one future review together with all the ministries instead of ministerial specific reviews. Some of the things that have been done that you can find on the internet, what sort of some of the reports in the last few years is this. We've developed this continuous horizon scanning, and you can find a report of factors affecting the future of Finland. That last review was done in about a year ago. There are these ministerial foresight and future reviews. There came out a report on the opportunities for Finland, and then this world famous government report on the future. We also have a very active national foresight network, and I'd like to encourage everybody to participate. We have a lot of things going on. Once every month we are organizing so-called Foresight Fridays. Now the coming Foresight Friday is actually on this Thursday, and we'll be looking at the demographics of Finland. The last Foresight Friday was on circular economy. And we have also had, for example, beginning of the year, we had National Intelligence Council from the States who prepare a global trends report in a certain cycle, and their process is extremely international. So they go on to these hearings, global hearings. So we organized a big Foresight Friday on the strategic trends for their upcoming global trends report. We've also done one about the UNESCO's futures literacy work that I can also recommend you to look at, and so there are some interesting things. Now the next Foresight Fridays will be organized around the government report on the future. We are moving now towards the world of uncertainty, and the next Foresight Fridays will be focused on these uncertain factors. So here are what are the things that are happening next. This building of a continuous foresight model. This is something we are continuously working on, and to always keep this updated, shared understanding of the operating environment. Now, after this government report on the future, I'll be talking a little bit more in detail about that next, is a scenario work about the Finland for next generations. And based on this work, we'll also start preparing the Shared and Unified Futures review. Usually at the end of the government period, there is a very clear message for the future governments. The last government's report was this opportunities for Finland, and the previous report was about complex issues or pirulliset ongelmat. And then these will be updating are updating ongoingly these procedures on the government report on the future. And like I said, these events happen continuously. We have a lot of international collaboration. Again, sorry for a little typo. We work together with European Union. For example, ESPAS conference is up and coming soon. We are part of the OECD Government Foresight community and also collaborate with UNESCO's Futures Literacy work. And there's a huge, well, perhaps not huge, but it feels, we are living in a global companionship with other practitioners of foresight, and we share a lot of information and practices across the borders. We get regular visits from various countries who want to learn more about the foresight done in Finland. Finland was 50 years in OECD, and Korea in his remarks last year said that Finland is a global leader in strategic foresight. And he said that the reasons why he's confident that Finland will have a growing global and multilateral relevance in the coming 50 years as well is that we are visionary and we are a global leader when it comes to strategic foresight in policy making. And this includes these deliberations by the Parliamentary Committee for the Future, these regular future reviews that are done by all ministries, and also the significant foresight work by Sitra and others. And as a result, Finland is ahead in policy, in emerging policy issues. So now it seems my computer froze. Okay, here. Strengths of Finland. We have a very widely shared view of the need for foresight work, and there is a considerable acceptance within various levels of the government and broad engagement of stakeholders. The specific strengths I'd see is openness, participation, and trust, and we widely involve citizens, civil society, businesses, and other actors to the common processes. A few words about the government report on the future that we are preparing at the moment. The task of the government report on the future is to identify important issues for decision making that will require special attention in the future, and it's an opening for discussions for the coming years. Now, this time the report will be presented in two parts, aiming to promote dialogue and engagement. The first part is an overall picture of the future operating environment through a scenario work exploring Finland and for the next generations. And then only the second part of the report, the government will focus on one or more of the phenomena that emerged in the scenario work and reflect on possible directions for solutions. We have a steering group of state secretaries and the support of the government foresight group that was started in 2015, and this is now the third government term where this is in standing. This reporting procedure also enables the Parliament to prepare a response on both the futures work of the ministries, but also on the top theme chosen by the government. We have started this scenario work in the exceptional COVID spring, and we have started to identify the factors affecting the future of Finland. And we have had a lot of different ways to try to figure out what are the factors, what is the hypothesis that we build that are the factors affecting the future of Finland. And now we are moving into the analysis I mentioned before, where we move into the world of uncertainty and we start to identify critical factors affecting the future of Finland, and then to develop a hypothesis for each of these factors. I decided not to go too deep into the process because I think that would be rather boring. But overall, it's an exciting piece of work, and we are very happy to be able to do this. This new model of government report on the future, it enables developing the big picture of the outlook for Finland every 4 years, and to integrate it better into decision-making processes. So what is feeding into this government report and the Finland for Next Generation scenario work is this collaboration with different regions, with citizens, with the National Foresight Network, but also with the National International Foresight Network as well. And this is feeding better into decision-making processes like the government report, the second part. So the government will choose the topic based on this scenario work. The government midterm review that is taking place beginning of next year, we will also bring in insights from this work into that. It's going to impact the ministerial future reviews, and we can also identify the research topics better that we need to be focusing on. The main bodies involved in this work are all the 12 ministries of Finland, the government, of course, itself, and then the parliament. We use the Parmenides-Eidos thinking tool to support us in this work, and this will especially help us in creating a better systems understanding. This is something what we are doing exactly this week. We are creating a systems understanding of the factors that we have identified affecting the future of Finland, to identify the systems drivers, to identify factors that are highly interlinked, and to also identify factors that are more passive, that are the perfect source for monitoring the environment, because they'd be just reacting to the change in the system. And then we can identify from the changes taking place in these passive factors that something is happening before we might even know what is actually taking place in the system. Here are some of the things that are in this toolbox, and we've been very happy to use this, and I can also recommend to have a look at Parmenides-Eidos. 50 dialogues about the future of Finland. This is something I mentioned, and this is a wonderful collaboration that we have with the Time Out Foundation. We have started 50 dialogues on the future of Finland. The aim is to have a dialogue once every week, and to invite people who normally would not participate in these kind of dialogues, and to hear their views on their hopes and fears about the future. We will be having these dialogues until about June next year. And what we are also aiming to do is to integrate these dialogues into the National Foresight Network work that we do. So we have these Foresight Fridays. There will actually be a FinSight also later this year, which is an event that is organized once every year. And the FinSight event will also evolve and around the government foresight report and the scenario work that we are doing. The 50 dialogues about the future of Finland, it is part of this government report, and they are also part of the government pledges. And representatives of different generations, especially young people and genders, and people from a variety of backgrounds and walks of life are invited to participate. And the goal is that people who, for one reason or another, do not usually take part in the discussions on the future will get involved in reflecting on the future of Finland. Today, for example, we had a discussion, a futures dialogue with people who have lived a long time abroad and have returned to Finland, but it also included some Finns who are still living abroad. Sorry. And promoting discussion and increasing the participation, we will also strengthen Finland's future. And according to feedback, this time-out discussion strengthen people's trust in one another and in institutions and help improve the resilience of a society. These dialogues are organized via time-out method. And I'd like to also invite you to have a look at the Time-Out Foundation and the Time-Out method. They have a freely usable way to organize your own dialogues. And these dialogues are held in different parts of Finland, but at the moment, because of this COVID, they are remotely. And we collaborate with regional and local partners. So I'd be very happy to also organize a futures dialogue, for example, with Aalto University, and to include perhaps people who are now participating in this call in one of these dialogues. So what is happening next? We are trying to use and increase the impact of futures and foresight work in decision making, and this strong cross-governmental collaboration will continue. Thank you so much. This is what I had. I think I could have actually continued. I was a little bit afraid I'm going to go over time, but I perhaps was a bit too quick in the beginning.
Thank you very much, Jaana. Excellent presentation. And I have to say that my first thought is that when I was listening yours as well as Mervi's presentation, we have been given quite a lot of information and insight concerning about the future of the technology and how that is affecting the human lives, businesses, societies, and more or less everything. What would you say, Jaana, after all these issues, what you just told us, and I know that it's hard to predict exactly the future, especially when we are talking about the technology, but how all this development is affecting the average people here in Finland? What would you say, especially the people who are not working so closely or with the technology and maybe not so enthusiasm on technology, how this is affecting an average Finn?
Well, this is kind of what we're trying to increase with this futures dialogue, where we are trying to invite people who normally exactly would not really be participating in these kind of processes. So when we contact, for example, different communities, we are not looking for the friends of the directors in that community, but or other directors, but we're actually looking for elderly people. We are looking at students, and to try to start to think actively on the future. And one of the things that while living in United Arab Emirates, they are very visionary. They have a very active discourse on the future that we want. It's so-called normative futures work. And with these time-out dialogues, we're also kind of trying to engage citizens into thinking actively about what are their hopes, what are their fears, that it's not something, future is not something that just happens to them, but that they can actively participate in. And so in a way, this is affecting every single one of us. The future of Finland is something where we all, and our children and our grandchildren, are living. And this over-generational thinking, I lived altogether 25 years abroad. And living in Germany, I was working with a company called Haniel, which is a company, it's a family-owned company, which was founded in 1756. 1756, it's still in the family hands. And they have launched into the German language a word called Enkelfähig, which means like grandchild capable. And this over-generational thinking, so when directors are making decisions, they have to think about how will this impact the next generations? And will this company still be in the family hands for the generations to come? And this kind of over-generational thinking is something that I'd like to sort of support, that we talk more about, whether it's in corporate settings, in government settings. And that's why the name of this scenario work is also Finland for Next Generations, that we talk about what kind of a future are we building for the next generations. So yes, it's affecting every single one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only Finns, but also people living in Finland.
Absolutely. Hey, one question, Jaana, from Mikael Johansson. Any good examples of success stories, something predicted, acted upon, or later realized?
Yes, there are a number of examples. Perhaps one that it's not necessarily such a positive example, but still showcases the power of scenario work. Even though I have to say, the aim is not to predict the future. The aim is not to guess the future, right? It's to increase our thinking capacity about the future. But for example, I know of a scenario work where the Crimea crisis, it was able to, in a scenario work, it was identified that this will happen. Because this is, in scenario work, you start to think in alternatives, and you start to think what is possible, what is plausible, sometimes what is probable, but mainly what is plausible and possible. And it just, by starting to think, what if this happened? What if this happened? You start to think of different ways, alternative paths, and events that will happen in that path. And this event was, for example, identified. And corporations use this a lot. I've been involved in a lot of corporate settings. So I'm not that new in government context. Actually, my background is more in business. And strategic foresight is a very common tool to create robust strategies, and to sort of help the company to select the path and the best possible strategy for that company moving ahead. And it is a very effective way also to identify growth markets. So I've used both scenario method as megatrend analysis to identify future growth markets, and I've worked this with DAX companies. So big, the biggest German companies are using these same methods also to identify these growth markets, or to create robust strategies.
Good. Hey, thank you very much once again, Jaana. I think we are running out of time. This discussion for sure will continue, and we are actually continuing with this public lecture series after 1 week. So next Tuesday, same time, and we will have 2 lecturers once again. The other one is Antti Vasara, who is the CEO and President of VTT. And the other lecturer is Jaakko Hirvola, who is CEO of Technology Industries of Finland. So we will continue next week with Antti and Jaakko. So thank you everybody for participating, and for our students, Juho's slides are now in my courses, so please go and check them. So feel good, stay healthy, and we will see and hear hopefully after 1 week. Thank you.